Hello, thanks for stopping by today. As in all things, sometimes getting started takes the longest time, and then once we get started, we can just run with it. So these are the first two cards that we're going to do from the Craft with Heart subscription. And on the desk, you can see where I just did some random, not random, but thought out Cricut cuts from the Close to My Heart Flower Market collection, excuse me. And then I added some stamps from my stash. The one at the end that you saw was C1056 Curly Sentiments, and then C1835 is the Sentiments and Stitches. And the last one was a stamp of the month in 2019. It's S1904, Love So Sweet. And I kind of chose these after I'd looked at the brochure for the cards. My first thought is, okay, how can I kick these up a notch? The cards are beautiful, they're great, they'll work as they are, but how can I enhance them? So that's where I went ahead and did all those cuts and showed that. And because not everybody has been familiar with Close to My Heart for as long as I have, I went through the catalog, and on page 37 of the September-October idea book, there's this great stamp set called With a Thankful Heart, and it's C1866. And I thought with the wheat and the leaves and the sunflower and some of the sentiments that it would kind of also work with any of the embellishments that I had planned. So don't know why I'm showing you the stamp sets twice, but I must have thought I forgot to do it the first time. So I've been in and out of my studio. We have construction going on, and with COVID, it's just been a long, drawn-out process. So I apologize for some of my camera issues and glare, but hopefully here in the next couple months, things will stabilize and it'll be a little more uniformity in our camera setup, and I'm not moving from room to room and in one place on a card table. So all right, I wanted to show you some of the tools I used. There was a jewel picker and a scoring tool, and then that black and silver is an old dry embossing stylus that I just love. Close to My Heart doesn't sell it anymore, but the weight of it is just perfect. So now I'm kind of dry fitting of what they recommended, and I have this basket of my cutout stuff. So I'm pulling out some things that I think will enhance the cards and kind of auditioning them or dry fitting them as we go. I decided I would do one card portrait and one card landscape just to shake things up a bit. And because most of that frond, that palm frond, was going to be hidden, I went ahead and cut it in half to just kind of give more emphasis. As I've been editing the video and seeing how I put that on there, hindsight's 2020, and I really wish that I would have maybe even cut that half in half and poked part of it out of the top right of that bottom little element and half out of the bottom left, kind of kitty cornering the star. But that's not what happened. But maybe when you do yours, you can do that. Everybody that purchases their card subscription through me will receive a set of all of the cutouts that I use to enhance my cards. So even though I haven't created all 12 cards yet, or all 24 cards yet for that matter, I have done the cuts and decided, and I will just use those as my muse moves me. And Joy to the World is one of my all-time favorite hymns, one of my all-time favorite sayings. So I loved that this card used Joy to the World. For those of you that are not familiar, these are the shaker card acetate and foam to make doing shaker cards super simple and easy. Close to My Heart now has several different shapes for the shaker cards. So this one's the star, came in the kit. You can make 6 shaker cards with one kit. And then you can add beads or sequins or buttons. You could even add confetti that you've cut from paper. Anything works in these. The Crafting with Heart kit comes with sequins, and then I did add leftover stars that I had from the last Craft with Heart kit. So I have both stars and the bluebell sequins, which I love the bluebell sequins. And now I am putting foam tape on the back of the die cut, but I'm only putting it on the outside edges because the one place like where the berries are will actually be on the popped up shaker, the corner of the star. So just something to keep in mind. And now I'm just kind of giving the stars a little bit of dimension shape, not really popping them up, but just giving them some sort of movement so that when they're glued down, they're not just, laying there flat, that they have some sort of interest. And sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't. With the stars this time, with the bigger ones, it did. With the smaller ones, I don't think that it actually worked. It almost worked against me. And then I poured out too many of those little stars that were left over from last month. So then I decided to take the end of my scoring tool and use it as a spoon to fill in with the bluebell sequence. And the star did not go on exactly right, so I apologize, I'm a little off screen, but I'm cutting that foam that was behind the star that it didn't get covered by the placement of the green star over top. So, and now I'm taking my piercing tool and just adding a real thin part of glue on that half a palm frond. And like I said, I wish I would have cut this in half and kind of put it almost kitty corner above and below this green bow, but hindsight's 2020, so next time. If you do one like that, I would love to see it because I think it would just actually turn out really well. And now the pop dots for on the inside of the foam for the shaker cards are great to use to give different levels of interest on these stars that we're putting on the front. So some of them I'm just gluing directly down, and some of them, as you saw, I went ahead and used pop dot or foam tape that I had cut into smaller pieces. And my hands were really, I just kept feeling like I had a layer of glue on my hands. And you can see that I use just a little pool of glue along the right edge side and use my piercing tool to pick that up so that I get a really thin line of glue for my embellishing. I really don't like how some glues, when they peek out from underneath the embellishment, have a shine to them. So I work hard to keep the glue under the embellishment and not popping out. Moving to the inside of the card, I chose Christmas Blessings from Our Home to Yours. That's what the two lines are. And I'm using my T-ruler to make sure that I get those straight. I originally thought that I was going to use the grid lines on the VersaMat, and then I realized you have a T-ruler, use it. So it's kind of new to me. It was a Mother's Day gift, but I really do like having that as part of my tools. Make sure when you stamp to put a foam piece that comes with the stamp under it. It will just give you almost a foolproof way to get a good crisp image, especially with words. Now I just put some dots of glue down, adding those tiny little shaker card stars, and we're on to card number 2. Here we go. So punching out the die shapes that come and just splitting in between the two cards. Some of the little pieces of paper that connect it to the sheet, the carrier sheet, didn't come off cleanly, and so I went ahead and just used an emery board file, to file those edges off. Making sure that I have the foam for the shaker card, and taking a look at this. The background is it's beautiful. It's printed with these leaves in like a second generation bluebell, I'll call it, behind, well, I wanted to add some peach. That's the color that I chose to use. So I'm just masking off the surrounding area with some tape, and you can't see it, but that purple tape, I actually go ahead and push it on my jeans to kind of fuzz it up a bit before I put it on the card, just to take the initial stickiness off of it so that it less of a risk of ripping the card. And then, like I said, I'm just using peach ink and it's a leaf branch with leaves on it. And there's a close-up that you can see. I just thought they were the same kind of style, but in a miniature. It was perfect. Just added a little interest. I did that to both cards, but I didn't think you needed to see all of the masking. I just moved the tape from the top to the bottom, and when all said and done, I decided I didn't really need to tape it all off. I started to just grab a piece of scrap paper, because it was a straight line, and use that to act as a mask. So that just sped things along a bit. And I'm consulting with the brochure as to where Close to My Heart originally designed these leaves to go. And then I'll pull out, I'm guessing I was looking for the other leaves. I'll pull out my basket of Cricut cuts to decide what I want to use to add to this one. This time I am creating both cards kind of side by side simultaneously. And one thing that I recommend that I forgot to use this day, partly because I think it was still in the studio and I was on a card table in the corner of a bedroom, squeezed in between my husband and the toilet that they removed, was an embossing buddy to take the static off of the back of the acetate, or just to kind of eliminate any static. I did notice on these cards the sequins tend to jump to the acetate instead of being a little less staticky. So that's my one recommendation that you should do. And again, I'm just adding my stars and sequins. I will add the top cover to hide the mechanics of the shaker cards. There's a film that is on top of the acetate on all of Close to My Heart shaker card sets. So I always make sure that is up, because I don't want to ever put that in. And then I can peel it off after I've pushed everything down, and I'm not going to have as many fingerprints on it to clean off later. That's my plan. Doesn't always work. So now I'm going to add the stars to the top. And I think, oh yes, and I remembered to pull the sheet. I've done in the past where I haven't remembered to pull that little protector sheet. So, and now I'm just going to audition some of the embellishments, see what we get. I don't believe I stamped a sentiment in the center of this card. It was one of those that I decided I could add a banner to it later. Oh no, I did stamp Many Thanks, but I wasn't worried about if it didn't show up as clear with the sequences on it. I just thought it was going to be a stunning card. So I did a little bit of shaping with those die cuts. You can kind of see there's a little bit of poof to them. So now I'm going through and adding some foam tape from that center star that I've cut down underneath, just to continue to give it that dimension. For me, it kind of gives it more of a natural feel. And I cut the frond in half so that it was more in scale and didn't cover too much of the bottom leaves. And for fun, I thought, I'm going to add some of these sequins to kind of act as flowers or little berries. And I really liked how that turned out. So I'm using the dry embossing tool again to just kind of shape the palm frond around to give it a little more interest. And the back of the VersaMat has this foam to it, which is just perfect for putting paper on and dry embossing, or kind of pressing the paper into it with some sort of a tool with a smooth, the end of the piercing tool, sorry, I'm losing my words today, has a smooth rounded edge and works, but it's so light and sometimes the wood of it drags on the paper. So the steel end of that dry embossing tool works just beautifully. And there's other dry embossing tools out there, or paper shapers, I think they're called. McGill has a set of 3 with reverse tweezers, and I used those for years and years and loved them. And they do wear out, especially if you have glue on it or use it for too many other things. You can get the steel or the stainless coating on the ball to rub off. So that's what's happened to my favorite sized one, and I probably should go buy another set, but right now I'm loving the close to my heart tool that I have, so I'm sad that they don't have it for sale anymore. Going back and just adding some more of those stars to the outside, add some interest, kind of move your eye from one end to the other of the card. Really like how that is looking. Sometimes I think less is more, and in this case I believe I walked that line of a little too much or not enough. It was close. So gonna stamp on the inside. Because I have the VersaMat flipped over with the foam side, I didn't need to have the foam from the stamp in there. You saw that I was just getting some of those chads off of the star. And now on to the first card. Here's a better look at how I'm adding some dimension. You just put the front side down and curl the edges so that when you turn it over, it's kind of like the leaf is curled under, and it's just another way to add a little interest. So they go through the mail perfectly, never been a problem. So I really recommend that kind of a technique for any, whether it's a sticker, whether it's cardstock, whether it's B&T paper. If it's cut into a shape, you should be able to do something to give it some interest. And then you can see how I cut the pink frond in half, and I'll use half on one side and half on the other side. And just play with it so that it works for you. Again, just using that tool to kind of curve the edges up a bit. It's kind of, because you're bending the fibers, they remember the bent more than the straightness, and I think that's entropy playing, working in our favor for the first time. So again, on this card, I'm just adding some of the bluebell sequins as berries or interest in those background leaves. I love my jewel picker. It's just something I picked up on Amazon, but technology has come a long way, and the tools that they have and how well they work just fascinate me. After I had finished these cards, I kind of stepped away and I was looking in my basket of goodies, and I was like, oh, you have these star circles, and I had made them thinking that they would be banners or something. So now I'm just kind of playing with them and auditioning to see how I can get these on to enhance the star that's already on there, and just be fun. So just have fun with your cards and do what works for you. And some things that look good to me might not look good to you, and something that you see here going, oh, she should have stopped and placed it there instead of this. Do it. Enjoy. We all, one day I will create it one way and the next day I'll create it a totally different way. So I really liked how the stars just added that extra oomph, and really pleased with how they turned out. And like I said, all of these images that I cut on the Cricut came from the image set Flower Market. There is a link for the design file if you have Flower Market already. If you don't own Flower Market, you can go through my Cricut affiliate link, please, and purchase it, and then the design file will cut out for you for free. So again, just trying. Notice that I'm keeping my stars kind of in odd numbers, in the 3s. There is a 4 there just because of different heights. I'm not feeling this so much, so I'm going to take this and do something else. Oh, I kind of like that, but what else can I do? And it just got to be too much, so now I'm kind of layering the pink behind the blue. I really do like that, so I'm going to trim up the edges, tuck it in there under the edge of the shaker cards, the shaker star, excuse me. And these, I thought about giving some dimension, but I thought the leaves are popped, the star is popped. These can just kind of be a flat image. Then I have this one little star that I'm trying to figure out where I want to do with it. Finally find its home, and there we go. Really like how that turned out. Have a great day. Be sure to subscribe.